You. What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you making videos without a story? What are you, crazy? Do you want to go to creator jail? Has nobody told you that story is king? If you don't have a story, you go and put your little camera down and you don't touch it until you have a story, okay? Making videos without a story. I swear I'm working with amateurs here. Alright, I think we've all heard people saying that if you're a filmmaker or a photographer, you need to learn how to tell a story. You gotta do it because that is what people care about. It is the thing that makes people stick around. It's the most important thing, and story is king. But I got a hot take. I think you don't always need a story to make something that is still worth watching. And I also think that sometimes all of that pressure that we put on ourselves to always have a story could be the exact thing that's getting in the way from creating anything at all. The statement "story is king" is at this point probably one of the most repeated pieces of advice in filmmaking and photography and content creation, and I get it because I totally agree with it. If you have a strong story that is interesting and compelling, a lot of people out there are a lot more likely to give you a pass if your visuals or your audio aren't the absolute best in the world, as long as they're still decent and they're not completely deep fried. And if you got a good story to tell and you've got good technical elements like visuals and audio, then that is the sweet spot, and that is where you want to try to be most of the time. But lately, I've kind of started realizing that there are moments when that piece of advice that people give of "story is king, always focus on your story," can actually end up getting in the way. So I'm gonna be honest and kind of vulnerable here for a second. Over the past few months, I pretty much haven't made anything for clients, with the exception of one or two small things here and there, which are kind of whatever. But for the most part, everything that I've worked on has either been for my YouTube channel or just like for myself. Like if there was a piece of gear that I wanted to test out and get some test shots and stuff, but like no big projects, no deadlines, just me and whatever I can come up with. And in those past few months, there have been a few times where I'll wake up in the morning and feel really motivated to make something, but then as the day goes on, something just like clicks in my head where I'm like, okay, I want to go shoot something, but what am I gonna shoot? What is the story gonna be? Because I have had it drilled into my little bird brain and into my subconscious over and over and over again that story is king and you have to have a story. But sometimes I just don't have one. And after that, all of that motivation just starts going away, because if I don't have a story, then what is the point of going out and shooting random stuff? And that started happening so often that eventually it put me in this really weird place mentally where I would feel anxious and stressed because I knew that I wanted to make stuff, but I just didn't know what to make. Like, the ideas aren't there. And I don't know what it was exactly and why it happened, but a little while back I managed to snap out of it for a second, and like my third filmmaking eye opened up, and I got up one morning and I felt like I wanted to make stuff again, like so many other times before that. But instead of talking myself out of it, I managed to hold on to that feeling long enough to actually put something into motion. Now, I got this friend who's really into mountain biking that recently picked up this air mattress pillow thing that he uses to practice his jumps and his tricks and stuff without hurting himself. So in that little moment of clarity, I reached out to him and I was like, do you want to meet up and have a little filming session? And then I can give you the footage that I get and you can use it for your socials or your own videos or whatever. And he was completely up for it. So we decided to meet up like 2 days later, and we did exactly that. We just filmed some stuff. No narrative, no shot list, no script or some sort of emotional arc or story that we were trying to tell or whatever. Just a bunch of cool looking jumps, and that's about it. And we were planning on filming a bigger video together down the line, and I'm not even sure if I'll be able to use any of the footage that I got the other day because there were some issues with it. But when I got home and when I looked at all of the stuff that I shot, all of that creative anxiety that I was feeling on and off for months whenever I wasn't able to create because I managed to convince myself that I'm missing a story or whatever, all of that creative anxiety just completely disappeared. Like, it was completely gone because I thought, this is good. Like, I filmed something. And even though there wasn't a story, I was able to pick up my camera and get out of the house and go and make what I think is some pretty cool looking shit. And the more I've been thinking about that feeling, the more I've started realizing why I even let myself get to a point where everything got so weird in the first place. And I am going to talk about all of that right after a quick break for the sponsor of this video, which is Motion VFX. So while we're talking about just making stuff look cool, I think that it's a great time to mention all of the awesome motion graphics, templates, titles, effects, and overlays from Motion VFX. If you've been following the channel for a while, you've probably already heard me talking about them a bunch of times because they are honestly some of my favorite editing tools right now, and they're currently running what is basically a DaVinci Resolve birthday sale. So it's been 4 years since they released their first product for Resolve, and to celebrate, the team at Motion VFX are hosting a sale of up to 50% off of some of their most popular plugins and assets for it. So if you've heard me or anyone else talking about how much we like their stuff, and you've also wanted to pick up something for yourself, this is a great chance to get yourself some editing tools that make your life a little bit easier while also saving yourself a bunch of money, which makes it even better. Now, I'm gonna have a link down in the description where you can go and check out the sale. However, if you happen to be watching this video when the sale is already over, you can still use my code George10 to get yourself 10% off of whatever you decide to pick up. All right, again, thanks to Motion VFX for supporting the channel, and thank you for sticking around and watching. So getting back to what I was saying, I feel like as filmmaking and photography and content creation in general have become more and more accessible, a lot of people out there, myself included sometimes, obviously, have started forgetting that you're allowed to go and create things without a story just for fun, and not because it has to be something like super serious. And I think the reason this has been happening is because a lot of people out there are adopting this super elitist and all or nothing mindset. And they're like, what are you saying? What do you mean I'm gonna go and shoot for fun? I don't shoot for fun. Shooting for fun is for normies. I'm a competitive filmmaker. I'm a competitive photographer. This is ranked. I'm going for challenger. I wanna be top 500. I want people to know my name and I want them to talk about me all the time. I want them to reference my work and to copy it and steal from it as a testament to how good I am. And like, I get it. I have nothing against wanting to turn your creative passion into a career and to be good at it, because that's essentially what I've been trying to do over the past few years. So I totally get it. But I also think that if you take it way too far and you start focusing way too much on all of these things that people are telling you are super important, otherwise no one will care about what you're making, you're starting to rob yourself of the fun of creating, which I'm guessing for a lot of people is the main thing that actually got them into the creative field in the first place. Or at least that's what it was for me. Like, I picked up a camera because I thought that making cool looking photos was cool. And I just wanted to make cool looking photos. I wasn't thinking about, oh, what does this photo say about the situation? What is the story here? What is the person in the photo going through? What is it? What is the narrative here? I was just thinking, oh, the shadow here looks cool. I'm taking a photo of this thing. The light here looks cool. I'm taking a photo of this thing. And then when I started making more videos, it was essentially the same thought process. I was like, this looks cool. I am happy. I made something cool looking. And then obviously, as I started doing it more and more, I started trying to focus on the story. You know, I wanted to have a narrative. I started trying to take the viewer on a journey and have a beginning, a middle, and an end, or some sort of realization, or some sort of lesson, or something to leave them with, which is totally fine. I have nothing against that because that's a good thing on its own, but the more I did that, the more I started forgetting about how to just have fun creating stuff. And this little shooting day with my friend was a really good reminder that you and I are totally allowed to just have fun with it. We are totally allowed to just make stuff for fun, just to enjoy the process. And even if you don't have a story, sometimes going out and making some cool looking stuff in itself is a story. It doesn't matter if you're gonna share that story with your viewer, but to you, that is the story. It is you just fighting against those feelings of resistance and insecurity and being unsure of whether or not what you're doing makes any sense. And it's just going out there and creating something. And like, there's a camp of people out there who really love telling you how cinematic and cool looking images just aren't enough anymore. Like, you can't just impress people like that anymore. You need to have a voice. You need to have a story. And the reason they're gonna give you is that they're gonna tell you everyone can make good looking images nowadays. Everyone can make beautiful cinematic looking images. And that is true. There's a very important detail that I feel like a lot of those people miss in that statement, which is that that everyone can make good-looking images if they know what they're actually doing. And the way to figure out what you're doing is to sometimes take your camera and go out there without worrying about telling a story with what you're shooting and just trying to intentionally make good-looking images that are just visually appealing, right? And then you're probably gonna fail, and you're probably gonna learn from that. And you're gonna do that over and over and over again until eventually you start understanding the technical side of things to a point where if you now go and you have a story, you're able to apply everything that you know about the technical stuff to create the images that are gonna go along with that story, and they're gonna tell it in the best light possible. Because I think that if you approach it the other way around, where you get in your own heads and you don't even let yourself go out there and try things because you're missing a story, what's gonna happen is you're gonna prevent yourself from practicing all of the technical stuff. The stuff that allows you to create beautiful looking images that you can then apply to a story when it actually shows up. And when that story pops up into your head and you think of it, or you find it somewhere, right? You maybe talk to somebody who has a really interesting story that you want to tell. When that happens, because you prevented yourself from practicing and from just trying stuff out and messing with stuff on a technical level, just making beautiful images that maybe have no meaning behind them, you might not have the technical skills to actually be able to do justice to that really cool story with the visuals. So that's why I think that this is a mindset that I'm gonna try to carry with me going forward, because I've gotten way too in my own head about not being able to always tell a story. And I'm realizing that sometimes what's more important is just going and making something. And if that means making pointless visuals, then that's totally fine, because sometimes pointless visuals are the thing that gets momentum going, and it puts you in a better creative headspace where you're going to be a little bit more aware and alert of what's going on. And eventually, if and when a story shows up, you can take advantage of all of the stuff that you know, and you can both tell a good story, but also make it look and sound really good. But yeah, I have been yapping for a while, so I think it's about time to wrap up. And you can feel free to do all the YouTube things if you feel like it. You can subscribe to stick around, like the video, drop a comment to let me know what you think. And yeah, I'll see you later.